adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio. I'm really excited about this interview because it combines two of my loves. One is metal and the other is the environment. And I was just at, as you probably know, I was just at Hellfest over in France doing radio coverage there. And I attended a press conference there between Savage Lands and Heilung. And man, when I found out about this organization, I'm like, we really need to promote this, especially now more than ever. And so I'd like to welcome to the show Sylvain from Savage Lands. How are you?
Hey, Pipeman. Thanks. I'm great. Under the French sun and heat.
Yeah. It's funny. I live here in Florida. Okay. And at Hellfest, every time I go, I'm like, send me home to Florida where I can cool off. And you don't say that ever when it comes to Florida.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty hot, right?
Yeah. And I don't even know how you did that press conference either, because that is the hottest part of all of Hellfest every time, that press conference area. It's super hot.
But I do live part of the year in Costa Rica where it's pretty hot too. I mean, it's probably even hotter than Florida.
It is. I was going to talk about that too, because I also live part of the year in Costa Rica, and it's one of my favorite places on earth, because of a lot of reasons. It's also one of my favorite places because of they are all about the environment, and coming from Florida, that's like two different worlds, because we need your help here with the Everglades, because, oh my God, the crap we're doing to our state, it just blows my mind. I don't know if you know, but the town of Weston near Fort Lauderdale, they built it on top of the Everglades. They filled it with, filled the muck, and that town is sinking because they're idiots.
No surprise there.
Right? I mean, but I do love that you do a lot in Costa Rica too, because, man, it's one of the most precious places on the planet. And even, I hate to say it against my own people, but even us Americans are going over there and ruining that place,
Well, not all Americans. I mean, there's bad people and good people in every country. I mean, I know also a bunch of French people doing really, really nasty shits there. So it's well spread being an idiot, Each country has a fair.
I think it's a worldwide epidemic at this point.
Yeah, I guess so. It's I used to live in the States for a while when I was 20, so it was before the internet and before everything. And I remember, being French, I was really kind of anti-America, revolutionary, blah blah blah. And then I discovered that it's a very much complex country that I thought, and there's some really good things. I mean, if you think about it, the first national park in the world has been created in the US in a sense of preserving something beautiful. I think it was Yellowstone. So you cannot say that the country is bad. There's some bad people and some good people. And because it's the US, it's always very extreme. That's more the thing that I sense as a European,
It's also to me, the United States is kind of like Europe. Every state is like a different country. Every state's got different types of people, different types of culture, language even, and I've lived in multiple states in this country, like New York, New Jersey, I'm originally from, then California in the 80s, and now here in Florida. And those are all three completely different worlds.
So you were in California in the 80s and you're still alive, so you're a survivor.
I know, right? And my best bro since 13, we used to go to metal shows together all the time and start the pits like at the original metal shows in LA, like Slayer and Metallica's first shows.
Wow.
And then he passed away about a year and a half ago, but he was a big time environmental icon in California, and he would love what you're doing, like because he in California was building rain gardens and doing restoration of all the Malibu Creek and the mountain lions and all that.
Yeah.
And he used to piss a lot of people off too, because like they didn't
Tell me about it.
they didn't want him doing these restorations because it ruined their view or their yard or whatever, you know. And
Oh yeah,
but
I know about that. Yeah,
but
that's
the,
actually
it's
one
amazing.
thing that. Sorry to interrupt you. That's actually one thing that I had in mind for a long time. I think that there's also an education about what is beautiful. You know, is the view or is the life that you have in your property? I changed my mind since I live in Costa Rica because, of course, when I came there, I had this idea of the perfect house and tropical garden, blah blah blah. But then now I have a totally different view, and I like something more close to natural aspect of a forest, and what makes my view and my life being kind of rich and pleasant is to have birds and monkeys in the garden and
Yeah.
whatever the garden looks like. I don't care. I don't want a grass. I don't want a lawn and two palm trees very symmetrical to the house. This is. I would have thought maybe it looks good like 30 years ago, but now so
Oh, my
my
bro would
point is
love
that,
you. My
yeah,
bro would love you because he was all about the natural environment. It used to piss him off there were palm trees in LA because they're not indigenous to LA. And
exactly.
like
Yeah.
at his funeral, we did it at one of his restorations, his most, proud one, where he brought like fish and wildlife and certain types of grasses and all the different vegetation that was indigenous to that particular area that was all gone and dead.
Yeah.
And he brought it all back. And so at his funeral, it was like all of the wildlife attended his funeral. It was wild. They were like all sitting there in the lagoon there in the background, like, we're here to support you, dude, for bringing us back.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's the point, trying to revisit the what we call beautiful, and I think it could be one of the axes of our work.
So tell us how this all came about. How the original idea come about?
Well, I've been in that, like reforestation and trying to preserve for like 30 years. And right after COVID, there was some kind of crazy stuff going on in Costa Rica. And that's why it started pretty much in Costa Rica, because the country stayed open, and many people that would never have the idea to come to Costa Rica actually came because it was the only country they could visit during those times. And some people they saw the opportunity of making businesses, and there was some kind of crazy projects and a very big development, and it became out of control. So I don't know why I had the idea to contact Dirk, my ex drummer from back then in France, and now he's in Megadeth. So I talked to him and I asked him if he would go for a project with me, and he was like, man, yeah, I think that's time, for the artists not only to denounce or to send money, but also to have their own tool where we could, act for real and show people what we're doing. And that's how it started. Savage Lands, he got the idea of the name. And then, of course, he contacted a few artists that he knows, and it saved time, and he gave us a typical way of presenting things, because we're not just an environmental organization. We're also an artist, and I think that's the first time these two things come together. That the record label signed the nonprofit organization; they didn't sign a band. So basically, the nonprofit is the artist and also the tool to operate on the field. So that's how it started, and yeah, and then it got faster because Hellfest helped us, and uh, artists showed up like Alisa from Arch Enemy, Andreas, Sepultura, John Tardy from Obituary. They were the first on board, and many others that are on the album actually. And so it gives us a voice. And I also think that the right choice was to address the metal community because it's a fucking great community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason for that. It's not just because I like metal. It's a metal person had to face all those years where metal was not promoted in mainstream media. So every metalhead either has a band, a radio, an association of whatever. He organized a concert. So there are people that know how to do things. They can be active, and we see that every day because people contact us with ideas and they do things for us. And that's what I think makes the project interesting, because everyone can be a real actor of the project. That's what we call the army of the trees, because everyone can have a role in that.
I love it too, because, metal, a lot of people don't realize what kind of family and community we are. They look on the surface, of heavy music, fast music, mosh pits, but they don't know what we're really all about.
No, they don't. But the funny thing, just right now we achieved to ally with other organizations in Europe, that environmental organizations, they have nothing to do with metal. And I contacted them because I know they're good at what they're doing. And at first they were like, oh, really? We're going to address the metal community, but why? And they were like, and then I showed them and I explained them and I showed them images of our concert in Hellfest last year and the reaction of the crowd and then the project. And then they're like, yeah, it seems interesting. And then they're okay. So we call that the Alliance of the Trees. And then they come to Hellfest and then they totally change. They're like, man, it's great. People are completely open to discussion, to talking, and they're really well educated. They thought we were savages and jumping on others and violence and stuff. And they realize it's the complete opposite. It's probably the safest place on earth, being at Hellfest. Everyone takes care of everyone. And so it's so obvious. All those organizations, now they're calling in. They're like, hey, put more metal in the project, because it's so cool.
Yeah. And, it's funny because Hellfest is a perfect example, because I go and I do festivals all over the US, UK, and Europe. But I would say one of my weakest languages would be French. Like I can maybe understand a few words, type of thing. But yet you go to Hellfest, you don't have to understand each other's language, and there's this connection, this bond that's not even breakable.
I know that's actually really hard. After the Hellfest, you have you're getting back to your house alone, nobody to talk to, regular people in the streets, and you feel completely depressed.
Right, totally. I know that. Listen, I got back from Europe and last week from doing these festivals. I think I've left the house basically just to go get some food once. And other than that, I've been staying like, okay, I'm in seclusion now before I go on my next one. And it's every time I go to any festival, and Hellfest is one of my favorites, is like, there's this feeling of love and therapy all in one, and that's why I think Savage Land, your idea is like the perfect concept, because we are such a big community now compared to what we were back in the 80s. And, basically everybody wants to make a difference pretty much in our communities. And that what you're doing is needed more than ever, in my opinion, and I saw what you saw in Costa Rica too, and that's why I said what I did before, because after COVID, I went back to my favorite place is Nosara. And
a big change there.
Oh my God, it broke my soul. First of all, you didn't even have, the road wasn't paved to get to Nosara. So I used to like that because it meant nobody could the people that would ruin it couldn't get there or wouldn't want to get there. Now it's paved, and you go there and there's all these constructions, and I saw howler monkeys walking on the ground. They never do that.
I don't. Yeah, that's exactly the reason why I'm doing that. Because, but I mean, of course, we're not acting only in Costa Rica. We started our action now in Europe. We bought a few places to make sanctuaries there, and that's the purpose of this alliance with other nonprofit. And we want to act everywhere. But it's true that such a beautiful place as Costa Rica is setting up an example, and it's probably talking to a lot of people when they see the beauty, and it's easier to love something when it's still there and it's still beautiful.
Yeah.
It's easier to protect it than to recreate it once it's destroyed, because that the process is completely impossible to realize. I mean, creating a forest out of a field is a really big challenge. You don't have any guarantee that it's going to work. It's better not to cut down the forest that already exists, because it's a whole complex ecosystem. And yeah, Costa Rica, of course, is a good symbol because many people know that it is a symbolic country for the protection of the environment, but it is endangered, and that's why we have to keep doing things together. And I'd love to act in the US too. I just need a few contacts and set up a small project, but a symbolic project. Maybe in Florida, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, we could definitely talk because, first of all, Florida definitely needs it. Like, I can't tell you, every day I go out there and I see them cutting down more trees to build more of this stucco crap. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then I have a lot of people from my bro that I'm connected to in the environmental community in California I've already talked to them about what you guys do because I knew they would dig it. And I would definitely be down with helping get stuff getting done over here too, because there's a lot of beauty in the world, and we need to, like you said, preserve it before it's gone. It's much harder to recreate it than to work with what we have. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Europe and what places, and give people a little idea of what you have going on there.
Yeah, so as I said, we use the music as a voice, and an emotional way of connecting the community. And of course, famous artists being there, it helps, but also we do really concrete things on the field. And our approach is to either buy places when they represent a certain biodiversity aspect, like a forest with a place with water, whatever makes it interesting. So we try to buy places like this and preserve them and then sanctuarize them. We also have projects that are more on the educational part, like reforesting, planting trees, bringing people into doing something, because once you plant a tree, then you kind of create a connection between the tree and you watch it grow. Next year is a little bit bigger, and it creates kind of a link. And I think this link is probably the thing that most of the people lost. And I don't like the environmentalists that are telling people, don't do this, don't do that, stop traveling, stop doing this, stop eating that. I think it doesn't work, actually. What I think would
pisses people off and turns them away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other approach is to try to get people into recreating an emotional link and appreciate nature and love the thing they have around their home or country or whatever. And then once they love it, they will naturally ask themselves what to do to preserve it. But if you do the other way around and just tell people not to do that, not to do this, not to do that, there's no future in this. People get more and more frustrated, and you're not going to bring them into something bigger, and that's exactly what we want to do with Savage Lands, is bring people into a project where they feel useful, they see results, they can get a sense of pride, and say, hey, we did that. That's what we're building, this project that is called the Metal Forests. Actually, we want to buy places or reforest places and give this a label and put an ad at the entrance of those places and say, hey, here the metal community is preserving, and this is a metal forest, because then people, when they travel, they can say, hey, I gave a little bit of money to Savage Land, and look, you can see it on Google Map. Here there is one of the metal forest, and it belongs to us, and
I
that's
love
how
it.
you start, making people, because I don't like the fact that people give money and then they don't know what happens, okay, we
Yeah, you got to
try
be
to give them
part
the,
of something.
exactly, and I always tell the same story because I think it's really really interesting. This guy came to Hellfest last year and tells me, hey, I love your project, I want to do something, and but I don't have time, I can't come and plant trees with you, and I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Oh, I have a restaurant, and I won the best burger prize for France last year, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do something. He's like, I could do a Savage Lands burger, and I'm like, yeah, why not, do it, and he gave us 4 euros per burger sold.
Nice.
Well, you know what, he gathered 5,000 euros, which is great. They did a nice black bean burger with the Savage Lands tag on it, and it's pretty cool. So 5,000 euros. But then the local television thought it was an interesting story, so they covered the story. And then he came to Hellfest with a huge check, to give it to me on the Savage Lands booth. And then this guy, it's an influencer guy who did the cooking TV show. So he's kind of a famous guy. He has like a 500,000 followers, and he did a little subject on that too. So I think it's great because it gave the restaurant advertisement, it
Yeah.
gave us money and advertisement, and the symbol in that is this guy did what he knows. He didn't come and work for me on the field planting trees, which he doesn't know how to do that. He did what he does every day, but he did that for us. And I think everyone can do that, whether
Yeah.
it's a big thing or small thing, we don't care, but making people doing their thing for the greater cause. And I think that's the best thing people could do.
I think that's cool as hell, and and your approach to it as well. Like my bro used to say, people don't understand. Yeah, I'm an environmentalist. I'm not telling people not to do stuff. I'm saying just do it over here instead of over here. That
Exactly.
simple, and let's all work together, because you're never going to convince somebody by telling them not to do something. You're going to convince them by getting them involved and letting them have the feeling and the attachment, just like you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. That's probably why we're growing that fast, because it's a new thing. It's like 3 years old, and yeah, I think that's a new approach, and I'm really excited, really tired, really busy, but really excited.
Well, I'm excited about what you're doing, and I even thought like it was pretty cool that Heilung is involved, because to me that made so much sense. It's like that's a like connection that is undeniable right there. So I mean, you're doing great stuff. How do people get involved with you? How do they check you out on the web, socials, and just tell them all they need to know of how little or a lot they can get involved, or just check you out?
Yeah, that's the thing. As a community, we have a voice. Even if you don't do much more than just listening to our music or following up on Instagram and talking to your friends. I mean, everyone has the capacity to follow us on Instagram and ask two friends to follow us too, and they ask the same to their friends, and then we represent a bigger community. Because if we have a meeting with some local um, municipality, or people that can make decisions on the local scale, they check our social media, they check how many people we represent. So if you can do one thing, is already this. And then you can contact us and build a project, or make a small crowdfunding. I remember this really small band in France, and I didn't know them at all, and I saw on Facebook, I saw a picture of them holding a Savage Lands logo that they printed themselves, and asking people to give money. And then my first reaction, as a stupid guy from the from the 70s, like, fuck, they robbed my logo to to get money, But no, it wasn't that. It was them trying to get money for us. And they
Nice.
were proud to belong to this movement because they like the music, they like what we do, they like the artists that are on board with us, and they wanted to be part of it. So I think they collected something small, like $300 or $400, but the symbol is fucking great, because if all the small bands they would do that, man, we wouldn't even need any sponsor.
Right.
We just work this way and have this huge army of musicians collecting money for us, and we would do the job, buying places and advertising this, and it would make it grow, and we would be totally independent, and everyone would feel responsible and active in that movement. And I think that would be fucking great for us, and it would be a good lesson for the rest of the world that is not yet listening to metal.
No doubt. And, the more the merrier. It doesn't matter what size they are. And you know what? Every big band was a small band. So you just never know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The small band that does this $300 crowdfunding for us, maybe they're the new Gojira, you don't know.
Right. Exactly. There you go. And then Savage Lands can be at the Olympics.
That would be great. That would be
right.
Great.
Anything else you want to share with the listeners we haven't covered already?
Well, I think we covered pretty much everything. I just want to thank you guys for existing, the independent medias that are totally dedicated to this music and this community. I think that makes a big difference compared to other areas, artistic areas, where we just rely on mainstream medias. So I think it's important, this passion that people put into that music. And I want to thank the metal community, the artists. And if you don't know about us, just check it out and send us a message. We're always happy to hear about you guys.
Well, thanks for all you do. And I definitely want to help you in your cause, because it's a great cause and, of course, great music. And like I said in the beginning, combines two of my loves. And I thank people like you for saving the world that we live in, because the world's going to be a much more beautiful place with Savage Lands. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thanks, man. That's a pleasure for me.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.